If you're willing to put in the effort of producing a large amount of molds, casting tools can be an efficient way to produce a large number of items at once without too much effort. However, of the 14 metal tools available, only 7, the hammer, axe, pickaxe, pro-pick, shovel, hoe, and the falx, can be poured. In order to produce the rest, you'll have to begin smithing. Smithing is largely superior to casting, as not only does it allow you to produce the full range of tools, it is also extremely fuel efficient, requiring only a single piece of fuel to produce 4 full tools if you work quickly. There are also an additional 13 items that can only be made via smithing. Although the initial buy-in on the anvil can be daunting to early players, it's absolutely worth it to invest in just for the saw alone. So let's begin. Step 1. Setup. To smith, you will need an anvil, a hammer, a forge, fuel such as coal or charcoal, a torch, tongs, and metal ingots. I also highly recommend creating a smithy, a dedicated room for working unmolested by the weather, wild animals, or drifters. To create the anvil, you will need to create and fire an anvil mold out of clay. You can refer back to part 3 if you need a refresher on how this is done. Additionally, to make workable ingots, you will need some molds for those as well, so throw a couple in the pit while you wait. It's likely you already have one hammer you've been using to break up ore into nuggets, but it can be a major pain to find yourself without one mid-smithing and have to pour another, so I would recommend creating 1 to 2 hammers solely for use on the anvil. The forge is easily built. Simply arrange 7 cobblestone into a U-shape in the crafting grid. Cobblestone can either be grabbed from ruins scattered around the world. Note that, unlike in Minecraft, cobble can be broken with the bare hand, or crafted out of specific stone by arranging 8 around a single piece of clay. For the fuel, you can just use some of the charcoal you produced earlier for smelting, but it may be worth it in the future to try and locate a coal mine, as brown coal works just as well for smithing and can be found in enormous quantity. Tongs do not have durability, so you can just keep using the pair you constructed for smelting as well. Once the anvil and ingot molds are ready to be used, smelt at least 1,300 units of copper, or 260 nuggets. That will be enough to fill the 900 units needed for the anvil, and fill 4 ingot molds. As 1 ingot is equal to 1 tool, all ingots are 100 units of metal, or 20 nuggets. Step 2. Heating ingots. When your ingots are cool enough to take out of the mold, you can either hold shift and store them in a pile for future use, or keep them in a storage container if you prefer. When you're ready to start, place your forge down and hold shift plus right-click with a piece of fuel to add it to the forge. Then place up to 4 ingots at once on top and light it with the torch. You can do this in any order as well, adding additional fuel at any point, or lighting the fuel and then adding ingots to the lit coals. The only thing to watch out for is adding additional cold ingots to a pile resets the temperature of all of them. As the coals burn, the ingots will begin to heat up and glow. You can see their temperature by hovering over them as well. It's ideal for your ingots to be white hot before working them, as that will give you the most amount of time, but anything past red hot or around 60% of their melting point is acceptable. Part 3. Smithing. With tongs in the offhand, grab an ingot and shift right-click to place it on the anvil. When you do, you'll be greeted by a menu to select what it is you want to make from the ingot. Note that once an item is selected, the ingot will now become a work item until completed. Even if cooled down and reheated, it will never go back to being an ingot and can only be made into the selected item. When an ingot is placed on the anvil, and an item is selected, a guide made up of green and dark purple voxels will appear. To complete the tool, all of the green voxels must be filled with metal and all of the purple ones must be cleared. Pressing F with the hammer, you'll bring up your strike options. There are 6 options. Heavy Hit, which will attempt to move all voxels down to the lowest possible position, mostly only good for trying to flatten out plates or chainmail. The Upsets, left, right, up, and down. These move a single voxel up, down, left, or right relative to where you're standing. Note that a voxel cannot move up over a ledge higher than one voxel high, and cannot cross gaps without dropping down to fill said gaps. And the split, which will remove a voxel permanently. Some recipes, like the iron plate, require 2 ingots, but generally every ingot has enough voxels to complete a basic tool, with some wiggle room so you don't need to fear removal of voxels too much. But be warned that once removed, this cannot be undone. Even if you're a single voxel short, the only way to add it in is to plop a whole second ingot on top. A huge waste. So be mindful and try and fill in the shape before removing anything. Here you can see the process of switching to different hits to move the voxel into position and finally remove the excess. Once completed, the item will pop into your inventory. It will still be as hot as it was on the anvil. You can either let it cool down on its own over time, or throw it into the water for a satisfying hissing and bubbling. However, as of version 1.18.15, November 2023, there does not seem to be any benefit to doing this, or punishment for simply crafting a tool using the hot tool head. It has no effect on durability or any other visible stat. Now that you're able to smith, there are a huge number of quality of life upgrades you can make, especially with the addition of the saw to your tool belt, which will be my next video.